Gazan families have returned to Khan Younis, setting up tents in the Al-Mawasi area. Here many feel the trauma of what has transpired not only over the past 2 years, but for decades. Hussam Abu Shawarib, a father of 7, has returned to what was once a place called home. The destruction reminds him and his family of the early days of displacement, a time they feared total war would break out.
We're lost. We don't know whether this is really a truce or not. We returned to Rafah, but were prevented from entering most of the area. We had asked before we went anywhere else if it was allowed or not. We were in a state of total insecurity, so we were forced to return to Khan Younis.
With the cessation of a humanitarian aid to the Gaza Strip following Israel's closure of crossing points, UNICEF has warned of dire consequences for children and families in Gaza who are struggling to survive.
The impact of the halting of aid going into Gaza on families in Gaza cannot be overstated. The humanitarian crisis inside Gaza has continued despite the ceasefire taking effect on January 19th, and families are in need of literally everything. So the consequences of the aid stopping will be devastating, especially for children.
Although the aid doesn't meet people's basic needs and barely reaches them, its cessation leads to a serious deterioration in food security, which is already faltering in Gaza.
We've been afraid ever since the crossing was closed. I want to provide food for my children, so I've started looking for rice, sugar, and flour. Prices have now doubled. We're relying on food aid, and it's difficult for us to lose access to it. We're afraid that we'll reach the stage of hunger and our children will be deprived of food.
Since the January 19 ceasefire, 7,080 trucks have entered the Gaza Strip, carrying a total of 130,000 tons of aid, including 20,000 tents. As displacement of Palestinians continues, there are renewed fears that another famine will strike the Gaza Strip if a crossing remains closed and if humanitarian aid fails to reach to the people in need. There are also concerns that the current ceasefire may not hold much longer. Nadira Tibi, CGTN, Gaza.